So they win. They didn't even make it. They didn't even make it. She's pregnant. And it's really game.
All right, how's everybody doing? I feel like it's been like 2 weeks since I see y'all. Forever. So there's some, we got this week and next week. And June 25th is going to be the graduation. Make sure you send me your information on how many people you're going to bring so that I can get the food ordered to make sure we have enough food. So these last two that we have are kind of short, but it's like the essence of business, right? This whole thing is about the business of being in business. I'm not here to tell you about cooking, about making clothes, none of that. It's all about what do you do to make your business successful. And we've come a long way, right? We really talked about in the beginning, really the mindset and some of the things you need to think about when you want to start a business, right? In the beginning, evaluate your lifestyle and your life in that whole effort, right? To see if this is what you really want to do. So at the end of this course, there's only two things that come out of it, and I'll be happy with either one. One, you say, this is the greatest thing living, going, I really want to do this, I'm gonna make it happen. Two is, I am just not ready for this. And I think that's just as powerful to say that I'm not ready for this, or I might have had the wrong concept after the research. So there's no sense of moving forward. I can find something else, but maybe not this, right? Or my lifestyle isn't at a place where I can do this at this point. So any of those or anything else that you come up with, but the main thing is you haven't, in some cases, wasted a lot of time, money, and effort. Mainly time, right? Time that if you really jumped into this and find out this is not right for you, man, imagine if you keep going. And so many businesses failed because it really wasn't right for them. They thought they wanted a business, but didn't know what all it entailed. So all of you going through this process right now, I'll say kudos to you because you've gotten a head start on most people who get into business where we just jump into it. Right? Figure it out on the way down. And, on a whole lot of those, I didn't figure it out till it was too late and I hit the ground. So that's kind of where we are now. So, in getting ready to get started, any updates, questions, concerns, marketing, credit, banking, anything that we've gone over so far? Awesome. So tell us about it.
So I've had like a lot of hesitancy on posting on Instagram just because of the overwhelm that I've experienced, but I decided to like share some of my work from over the summer. And I guess it resonated, like how I presented it resonated. So I had 2 people go on my website and purchase some tote bags off of me. So when I get home, whether it's today or tomorrow, when I get the print and ship them out.
That's awesome, awesome. So why were you hesitant?
I think imposter syndrome. I had no, like just seeing all that I have to do, what other people are doing, unfortunately, and just honestly like sizing myself up to them as well as like where I was before. When I started my business, and then just like my mindset around sharing my work. created a lot of hesitancy, but today I was just like, F it, it's been in my drafts, and it's not, nobody's gonna see it if I don't post it, so I just pushed through and did what I needed to do. I didn't really like think too hard about it. Like I wrote the caption and, you know, it was really heartfelt. But I didn't really want to let doing it the right way keep me from sharing it anymore. Cause that's something else that like causes hesitancy for me is like finding the right way to do something versus just doing it and figuring it out after.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's awesome. So we got the imposter syndrome, which is a common with a lot of us, even people who sometimes get to what we would call professional, still have it, right? And you got to get to that fuck it stage, right? And that's what it is. Like that's like one of my things in my mind. Like when I get to a certain point where I just get frustrated with me being mad at me, right? And then you get to the epic stage and you're just like, well, whatever happened, what's the worst can happen? Right. And then, so then you go and do something like that. And then you find out, you know, I have wasted all this damn time and I could have been out there regardless of what happened.
Right.
If they don't like it, they don't like it. And that's okay. You know what I mean? More me with it was, I know when I really started sales, that was the most scariest thing in my life. Like to actually make a phone call, get somebody to say yeah. And I remember going on my first sale by myself. Got to their house, sat in the car. I could see them through the window. I was like, man, I gotta go do this. In my mind though, I was selling insurance. I'm gonna screw this up. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna get in there and fumble. So I sat out there about a half an hour before I pulled off and left. Didn't even go in. Just for no reason, you know what I mean? But we all go through that, right? Or maybe not all of us. But that's a mental block, right? And then, you know, I got to that stage, like, what's the worst gonna happen? I'm just gonna have to go in here and be bad so I can get good. You know what I mean? And my pocket was empty. Poverty make you do some crazy stuff. So I remember going in on my first sale and man, because I was so nervous, I just messed that whole thing up. What I thought I messed up, right? But they were just as happy as, hey, we really needed this. And I was like, man, I'm out here, all this stuff, and people actually need what I do. Like people need a pouch.
Yeah.
They need yours, right? You're doing them a disservice not getting it out there, right? So, you know, that is 95% of business. Just the mental blocks we go through, just the non-belief. And some of it has some rationale, right? You know, but in the end, it's just about getting out there doing it. And that's why I say, you know, starting your business now from a hobby while you got a job, this is the time to figure out, do you have the mustard to do it? And it's not just doing it, it's also the mustard of saying, I don't know how to do this. Can I find someone that does? Right? Can I find someone that's good at sales? It's just like, what was his name? Mr. Jackson? I can't remember. When I first got out here 9 years ago, there was a salon owner. Brother, he sat out on the stoop. For some reason, we just started talking, and I remember when he closed down his shop, and we really got his chance. We was walking down Penn Avenue, and he was just talking to me. He said, you know, I've been in the salon business over 20 years. And I have never touched the head. Right? But he knew how to run a business. Like, I want you all to understand that if you're in here today, your job should be to create a system in a place where you no longer have to work, you just have to run the business. That's when you know you have a business.
I
I don't know the person personally, but I know someone who knows someone who runs a nursing staffing agency, who's not a nurse, never been a nurse, you know, but places the nurses, owns the agency, make big bucks, but you know, different pathways, you know.
Absolutely.
So, like, normally I would have thought, oh, he had to be a nurse, he's retired or something. He knows how to run a business, and that's what he did.
So all of us have that capacity. My biggest thing is that I just want to share that with you because we don't get taught those things. We don't know those things. Most of the business people that I know are people who own jobs. And I thought that was the greatest thing, right? Meaning they had somewhere to go that they called their own. But the job owned them, right? You see somebody in a convenience store and they're the owner, you know, they can't take a day off. Right? And so the thought is, how can we get our businesses to a place, and it might not happen overnight, but at least the thought is there, where one, we're comfortable with letting go of our designs so other people can make them so that we can get paid on them, right? Because if you're the only one that has a design, that means you're the only one that can create it. You're the only one that can make it. Which means if you don't get up and go to work, you don't eat, right? You look at some of these ad agencies, right, that are doing websites. You know, the person might not even, was running it, don't even know how to run a website. Don't even know how to create one. Some don't even know how to turn on a computer. But they understood how to bring people together and run a business. What made me really, really get into understanding the background of business was when I used to, and I still do watch these business shows, like Bloomberg and stuff like that. And they would talk about the CEO of General Electric just went to the CEO of, you know, let's say TikTok. I'm like, they don't have no kind of relationship, right? And like most of us, I thought the person, if he was working at GE or wherever, he was an engineer. So he had to go somewhere where it was engineering, which was not TikTok. And I'm like, this is like, how does that even work? So I just really started studying this. No, this cat had connections. He was part of the government at one time. Not those two companies, but just, you know, in that line. And he knew how to bring people together. Had great leadership skills. Businesses are looking for leaders. People who can really go in there and say, all right, let us stop what we do. Let us really look at where we're going and how do we do these different things. That's why a lot of these companies, especially back in the 80s and 90s, a lot of them were run by people who used to be in the military, right? Because they just have that, and usually officers, that means high level. That means these are guys who, and if you go to many in the Army or in the military, in particular, a lot of the units are called companies, right? I was the first sergeant of Company Bravo because I knew how to manage people. I knew how to bring people together. I knew how to strategically think. I knew how to think what the other person is going to do. What is my competition doing? Like the reason why I really excel at this is because my whole mentality is what I have to do here at work or in the business here is easy. I was in a position at a young age where I had to make sure people came back alive so their family could see them. Like when we did training, I did it for real. Like, you know, most people just go there, well, you know, I ain't saying every time, but most of the time I'm like, I gotta learn this because if we ever get called up, you know, Gordon Maker gotta go and everybody's gonna be looking to Gordon Maker to bring them back. And I can't, at that point, you know, you don't have the opportunity to shirk up and go hide and just walk away. Because you all the way over there in Korea, if you ain't with them, then they ain't with you. That means you by yourself, which means you're gonna die anyway. Right? So as we look at this, you know, think about how many lives you're gonna touch by you being you, by you going out here and creating something for other people, not just yourself. All right, any other person thank you for sharing that too, by the way. That was real good to at least start the thing off. Anyone else have anything else to share? Any wins over the last couple weeks, over the last 7 weeks? No wins, no nothing?
Yeah, when we won the, Pittsburgh Rock Council Parade. You know, we got a lot of interest and support, and so, it's been a couple small things. We just did a radio interview with, WAMO. And we have an article that's getting ready to come out with another place. But yeah, it's some small things happening.
That's awesome. Here's the thing, what makes it small?
I don't know, I guess I'm also dealing with like imposter syndrome, because like I do like artist collaboration events, and I did it on a small scale. And I think with me doing it full time, it definitely brings a lot of fear, because it's like, thankfully I have a great support system. My husband was like, I'll take care of everything, you go, like, do your business. I guess that it's just a lot of fighting when making sure this is successful. Like losses are a lot heavier than they used to be when I was just doing it just for fun. And now the losses, like, it takes me about a day or so to get over them. Whereas, you know, when I was just looking for fun, I was like, all right, whatever, move on. But now it's like the losses are affecting me, but also the wins are like really big. So, yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. So one thing I had to learn is that there's really not no big thing that happened. It's a lot of small wins, right? Over time that create the big one. Now, we celebrate the big one in a big way usually, but it's learning how to celebrate those little, and again, they're not small. They might be small, but they're not small.
Yeah.
Because everyone adds up to that big win. To, you know, and that's why, you know, I would like for everyone to share something, because if it's nothing but, hey, I figured this out. That's put me one step closer, right? Or I made this call. I made this call and it sucked. Which is just as good, because you're one step closer of overcoming and learning about who you are in this whole thing and what your business is and how it's going to work for you or not work. Every one of those are wins. So understand, like, it's not just this one thing. Yeah, I sold $1,000. No, if you sold $1, there is something special when you go out there and on your own, you make $1, where you had to go talk to somebody. And I would say that's not a friend or family who will, you know, support you anyway. But when you out there just talking to people and they say, yes, I will take $1 out of my pocket for you to put in your pocket. That's a beautiful thing. Because once you really master that, then there's nothing that can stop you, right? And now you know how to at least do it with anything you do. How are you doing? Oh, wonderful. We're gonna get started now. We just waiting on you. So. So we were just sharing, you know, any further losses or any revelations over the last 7 weeks that you would like to share.
To date, I guess 8 speaking engagements.
8?
Because I came here, I'm changing my offer.
Say that again.
I'm changing my offer.
Okay.
I think I'm too low what I was trying to do, so I'm working on changing the offer right now, because the target audience that I created, I don't think they care about the low offer. It's probably coming off as too cheap. So
That's awesome.
I'm working on content. That's my biggest struggle with content. I absolutely hate content. I'm a talker, so I probably should do more video content like YouTube or TikToks or something of that nature, instead of trying to build out Canva templates and stuff like that. So I'm trying to figure out my content strategy going forward.
Mhm.
So.
That's awesome. 8?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
That's awesome. So break down what you do again, just so in my mind.
I'm an AI consultant, I'm actually certified now. So I was calling myself an AI consultant last year, but actually went through the process to get certified. So accredited certified AI consultant. So I help people implement AI tools. Pretty much I'm working on, actually, another good thing I did. I just partnered with a company called Make.com. It's like, have you ever heard of Xavier? They're the competitors. So they are allowing me to use their platform. I can create my own, program to offer to students. And I'm also working with the University of Pittsburgh. Going on with meeting 30. So there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Right.
So as we get ready to go into cash flow, you know, one of the things we talked about at the beginning is how much do you need to make, right? And so as I was talking to a young man today that came in my office, and he has an international wine business. Well, let's call it spirit business. And he is trying to make a bigger impact on the state stores, right? One of the things that is a challenge for a lot of people, if they're really not thinking in a certain way, is if you get into the state store, right? They only deal in volume. Like you can't go in there and one and two it, right? Because when they make an order, they're ordering for 250 stores. They don't order for stores in Pittsburgh. They order for the state of Pennsylvania. So he found a niche in the market. He at one time Godiva was making a liquor, right? To mix with different things, right? Everybody's shaking their head like y'all really know what that is, huh? Everybody starts smiling on that side. I know where that's at. So for some reason, Godiva stopped making it. So he decided to create one to fill that hole in the market. And so he was able to get it into the state store. They tried him for 80 stores. Now they want to get them into all the stores. And so we were talking about, you know, okay, what does that really mean? Right? How much money do you need? Well, I just never really thought about it. Then he started saying, well, if I get 75,000, I could do this. If I do 100,000, I can do that. I was like, well, let's stop right there. I said, what you need to do is really go home, figure out really how much money you need. I don't care if it's $1 million. Figure out how much money you need. And let us go to the financial institutions and let them back us back. But don't you back yourself back. You ask for everything you want and need, and the bank will say, well, if you need $1 million, they're only going to give you 750,000. Okay, then we'll figure out how to adjust back. But don't you adjust back on yourself, because you'll never win that way. Like, understand exactly what it's going to cost to fund your business. Like down to the whatever. Like, don't try to, you know, like we got to do in our households. Again, because most of us went to that prestigious accounting school of Rob Peter to pay Paul, right? I got a master's in that, I think a PhD by now, from that college. And so if we go in it that way, we're always going to be less. You need to know exactly how much you need for your business. And then you can make a decision. If they're only going to give us 750,000 and we need $1 million, we need to say, okay, we can go back this far, or we just can't do it. Or we have to go find some alternatives to bridge that 250,000. Right? There's not a lack of money. There's plenty of money out there for all of us. There's sometimes a lack of ideas, a lack of leadership, and a lack of stick-to-itiveness. Right? When I was telling my partner in Ohio, I'm thinking about doing this private equity funds to buy businesses. You know, I'm just sitting there just telling him the vision. He said, well, I got 50,000 to put into that. You know what I mean? I'm like, wait, I didn't even ask you for nothing yet. He was like, look, I don't have the time or the inclination to go out there and work with businesses. I got money that I can put into a business that I can get a nice return on, but I'm not a business person. So I'll never be able to work that. So I have capital to put into the market. Right? And there's a lot of people out there like that. The very person you think ain't got money got the money that you're looking for. But you got to be willing to speak it into existence and talk to people about it. Right? So when you're ready to get your manufacturing company, right? It's just, okay, let's see how much it's going to cost, and let's go figure out how to get it. If it's meant for you to do, right? If it's not, then you're just gonna go through a lot of Singer sewing machines. So what we're gonna do today is understand how to create and read a cash flow projection. Learn how cash flow management impacts a small business, understand how to use a bank loan, and provide information on startup cash operations, cash and owner's draw. I want you all to say this with me. Owner's draw. Y'all know what that is? Let's say it again. Owner's draw. That means what you pay you. Right. We always got to keep that at the forefront. We are not a nonprofit in here. I told you, I am a capitalist. And I need for all of you to be capitalists because all of you have to make $1 million. Because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So all of you make $1 million and hook me up with 10%, I'm a millionaire, right? I'm just trying to help myself out and make sure I got some longevity in the market. So as you know, again, we've gone through succession planning, marketing, and all of that has in, I'm not going through this again. I meant to take it out because I just hate that one. So what is cash flow, right? Cash is the fuel that powers a business. Cash flow is a phrase used to describe the movement of cash in and out of a business. Cash flow specifically addresses timing, when cash moves in and out of the business, the amounts, how much cash moves in and out, sources, where cash comes from, the uses, where cash goes, and the relationship of business activity to producing and using cash. So if you go to a bank, a lot of times you're going to ask for cash flow or projection, right? You're going to ask for a projection for your business. They're asking you to project, if you're in business, how much money you're going to make in the next year. People get kind of hung up on that, right? This is just a projection. It is not necessarily what's going to happen. But they look at that to see if you understand how your business or how money moves in and out of a business. So always think about that. They're not really trying to catch you up on anything, and you're not trying to be perfect. They want to make sure that if you say you are going to have a coffee shop, you say you're going to make $20,000 a month, and you don't have a 200 square foot place that can't even get that many people in there, they're going to ask you, how is this possible? Where we're dealing with businesses that have more square footage than you, more traffic, and they're only making $15,000 a month. Doesn't say you can't do it if you come up with a logical strategy, but the question is going to be asked is, how do you project to do more than a Starbucks in a month? As an example. So sources and uses. So when we think about our business, and if we're going to talk about money with anyone, we want to understand, again, how much money we need, which will be under uses. So when I was talking to the gentleman today, he said he needed more bottles. He needed money to get them the labels, because it's not a plastic label, they're etched right into the glass. There's perks to being in business. Placing on that. So it's called dirty chocolate,
Oh,
right? Just now getting into the state stores, been here for a little while. But this is what it looked like, and it's in the glass, right? So very professional, you use the plastic on there, but I let everybody in the hospital will sit there wanting some. So he said he needed the bottles, very specific bottle, right? Some people say average, everyday, this kind of bottle. Get it etched. He needed money for marketing. He needed money for not just like Facebook, but he needed money from people who were going to do marketing strategy. I mean, throughout the state of Pennsylvania, they're going to go in there in different places and test, the taste testers, things like that. So he needs inventory, he needs equipment, and he also needs working capital, right? So thinking about if he needs $1 million, he should go ask for at least $1,050,000. For two reasons, depending on how long he figures it's really going to take to get it up. So most of the money is needed to float because the PA liquor board takes a long time to pay. It takes them 60 days to pay. So even if he had like a lot of money to go do it, he would put all that in there, he would still have to wait 60 days. Which if you have $1 million order, it's cool, but if you're doing it, kind of sketchy, because you gotta come out of your pocket to do it, that's gonna be a challenge for a lot of people. So, one of the things I said is, look, you need enough money, since this is your only thing, you have a partner that went back to work. I said, look, you're gonna need money for working capital. That means you're gonna need money to pay for the loan for 6 months, right? That means I get the money, I get $1 million, but I still gotta pay that next month. I got a big note that's coming due, right? So I wanna make sure I have enough money for 6 months to pay that note. I would also like enough money in there to pay me for the next 6 months. All things considered, if he goes in there and, let's say he sells $1 million worth of stuff, well, he would actually have to be more than $1 million, right? So he gets the inventory, he gets the bottle, puts it in the thing. He now makes, $1,200,000. So now he's a net $150,000, right? Because he can pay the $1 million loan back, which I said he probably shouldn't right then. Because now he has all this $1 million and he's only paying, let's say, $50,000 a month. You can pay that, continue to pay that, but now you still got all this money to put back into the business to keep going. Right? Some people will want to pay back $1 million, we're not understanding, but if you got that $1 million for 10 years and you can flip that thing a couple more times, then you get $1 million. Let's say you get the $5 million in the next year, you can pay that $1 million back. Now you get $4 million to the good. And you only have to pay $50,000 a month. It's not that much. For $1 million loan, I think it's like a little over $100,000 a year. Right? So that's the way you look at it. So the usage, right? We gotta go get this we gotta get some inventory for these clothes that's about to be made. then we're gonna get the equipment, plus we may not have to buy another single sewing machine because 3 ain't enough, because it's gonna blow out of them pretty quickly, right? You gotta have capital for all of this, right? So now, hey, or I need another one because I got 3 more people helping. Right? So now all this stuff is in the inventory, or I need to go get my skills up, and it's gonna cost me $10,000 to go to this class and get it up. Okay, that's working now. That's in your inventory. That's in one of the uses, which is an okay use. And then it's saying, okay, now we gotta go find our sources. Another thing we were talking about today, right? Who's gonna give us the money? Who's gonna give us $1 million? It wasn't that much money, and it's still not nothing, right? So now we're gonna say, okay, the bank may give us $750,000, but we still got $250,000 to bridge. What are the other organizations out there that we can talk to that may be able to bridge that gap? Or who are the people who I can talk to, who, if I choose to, I can give some ownership for some money? Right? So that means they're part owner of the business. They give me the $250,000. I give them 30% of the business. But now I don't have to pay that $250,000 back until we sell the business. And depending on what you negotiate, they may want. So if they're giving me $250,000, and let's say we're going to talk about this and maybe sell it in 5 years, then they're expecting $500,000 back, which is cool. Right? Because as you all make your millions of dollars, you're going to be putting it back into other business, into the market, because that's how the market works. So we're asking for sources and uses, and anytime you go to a financial institution, they're going to ask you for one of these. What do you need it for? And they're going to be the source, and they're going to be multiple sources.
This city,
Say again?
this city EPAs.
Economic Development Association. Right? So in Pittsburgh, that could be the URA, the Urban Redevelopment. Right. As part of the city. Right? It could be, if we had money, the WCDC. Like any there's a lot of organizations within, what part of town you live in? Swissvale? So Swissvale probably has a community development or economic development source over there that you can talk to them about, what they have, to offer. I would say get to know your local and your city organizations that help businesses. Sometimes they have grants, sometimes they don't. I don't build anything on a grant. A grant, to me, grant is great. Right? I go say, okay, I'm gonna have to get this money, but if the grant comes along, that would be sweet. But a lot of people base their businesses on grants. That's not the way to do it. Base your business on numbers that you can do if you have to go to one of these sources. And if a grant comes along, you just had a nice windfall. So cash wants versus needs, right? People have wants, businesses have needs. And we talked about this a little before, right? We may want a Cadillac Escalade pickup truck, but we may only need just a pickup truck, right? So understand what the difference is, right? I know my mother used to do this, that's why I almost had to fire her. So, we'd be going something like, that, Mom, we got to figure out how to do this and say, my mom was like, no, we got to get the best. Mom, we don't have to get the best. That's why we broke down. That was my mom. I only fired her twice. So, coffee shop, right? The cash flow projection. So this is talking about, again, the cash flow projections and really how to look at this. And again, this is in your book. But when you're thinking about the starting, right? Like I said, you got to think about everything that needs to go in. If you go to get that loan, Like, you can't like just walk back into the bank and say, I need another 50. Without having to go through all the stuff that you just went through. So you wanna think as much as possible, everything that's gonna be needed when you start this business. And to keep it going. So in this one, they talk about tribute. The coffee, the food, miscellaneous. And that's the sales that they think is gonna do. So the sales have nothing to do with the startup. That's April, May, June, July. So we're gonna kind of work that out as they go along, saying, okay, for the first month, the sales may only be, 2,000 for coffee, maybe 3,000 from the food, make it another 1,000 from miscellaneous, $6,000. But in May, it may go up. June, it may go up. July, it may go up. July, it may go down. Right? Question is, do people drink as much coffee in the summer as they do in the winter? So you gotta think about it, right? Now, this happens over time, but they want you to be thinking about what really goes on and do research on how your business should flow. Because most bankers know that there's going to be a flow in your business. They want to see that you know that, right? If every month is the same thing, they say you didn't do the right predictions. If every month was $6,000, wait a minute. So, go ahead.
So how would that apply to considering this past winter, we really didn't have snow? Like, how was those businesses, like, remember Willie Ski Shop? Like, how do you think they're, like, how do you explain that for that? Like, they didn't expect that we didn't have snow.
You don't know, so these are just projections, remember?
Yeah.
Like every year, you should be sitting down projecting what your business is gonna do. Because let's talk about the retail industry, period. Macy's, Kaufman's, all of those. Hot right. So,
There you go.
any of those retailers, they understand that in most cases, those big ones, a lot of times they're getting a loan for many parts of the year. Because they don't have capital to keep up as big as a staff as they have and get inventory. But they know that come November, December, they're gonna make that up. So you'll see a lot of these companies that they're getting loans like crazy. We never see that because we're only on this, right? But from a business point of view, yeah, they're gonna get a big giant, 20, 30, $40 million loan for inventory to hold them until they get to December, to November, December. And then once that happens, boom, they pay off the loan, they pay off everything. Because again, a lot of times they don't make enough money all year round to sustain their business. But they know January, February. So as a retailer, you go into the bank and every one of those months is the same. They're like, you don't even know your business. Starting out, they just want you to do projections. What do you think it will do? They know it's not going to be exactly right. It's just a conversation. So anytime you go into these banks or whatever, just be ready for a conversation or be coming here. I'm going to ask the same question. But it's not as a negative if you can explain it, it's a conversation. I got a question on this. Especially if it looks perfect. Because I know somebody else probably wrote it. Right? And that's okay. I can care less who wrote it. Do you understand it? That's all I ask. Do you understand it? To make sure that you're going to hit your goals and get the money that you need to make. So this is, cash out from goods, like how much are we projecting? Again, whether it's the bank or not, you have to make projections yourself on your business of how much money you need at a certain time. Oh, let's figure, you are in a coffee shop and you're in a great place. But you just found out now that the World Series is coming here. Well, that's not, like you said, like someone saying like, you know, you don't know about the bad winters. I'm sure they probably got a loan to keep going, but they know there's gonna be another good winter at some point. The question is, can I sustain my business that long? Can I get a loan and still make that debt payment and still have enough for us to get through until this thing turns around? But understand, most businesses go through that. If you ever start looking at Bloomberg and you see these big giant businesses that are billion-dollar businesses, but like, yeah, they had to get a loan to do this. You know how many loans Tesla done got? Every week they get another loan. Right? And understand, Tesla, the reason why it's so big, because it got subsidized by the government. SpaceX, all of them. So a lot of times, it's about getting behind the numbers and looking at what's going on. So this is a continuation of that projection. You know, they're gonna ask you owner's contribution, and owner's contribution is not all the time cash. Right? It could be those 3 sewing machines that's already been bought. Most of us are putting up our house. Depending on how big the loan is, right? So again, for projecting your startup cash, you know, some things we don't think about: cell phone, web design, website design, beginning inventory, office furniture, if we choose to do that, computers, printers, like all these different things that we need to start our business. And again, this is just you sitting down thinking, okay, if I'm going to get this loan, then how much do I really need? Even if you're going to get into the grant game, they're still going to ask you these questions. Because the question I would ask is, if I only got a grant for $20,000 that I can give you, but it's $100,000, where are you getting $180,000? Because there's no reason for me to give you 20 and you can't get the 80. Right? So I'm going to ask for the projections. I'm going to ask to see what is it going to take to start your business. Now I'm going to ask questions. So projecting cost of goods. Again, this is different for different people. It's a little harder for those who are in the service business. And even when I seen it in the service business, I didn't see it in the profit and loss statement a lot of times. They just added it in with the other stuff. But this is if you're making something. So we're going to make clothes. The labor that it takes to make the clothes, the inventory for the clothes, and, you know, the selling expenses, who's going out and selling. What it is not the secretary. It is not the managers, right? It's only what it takes to make that particular, and this is variable, right? This is going to go up and down. Because if you sell more, that means you got to buy more. You got to put more time in. So every month, this can go up or down. Your operating expense doesn't change. Right? Your operating expense is what is going to take to run the office. You know, maybe your advertising, your Oh, you sneeze. Oh, glad you sneeze and talk at the same time? I thought you talked. Oh, okay. So expenses is whether or not the business has a sale, right? So whether or not any of that stuff that the cost of goods was, even if none of that stuff gets sold, you still got the expenses, right? You still got the overhead, you still got the rent, you still got the insurance, you still got utilities, you still got office supplies, you still got staff workers. Right? The cost of goods goes up and down. You may not need anyone this month, you got so much inventory on the shelves, so no one needs to come in and make stuff. Which usually doesn't happen, but as an example, but you still got people there to still make the business run, right? You still gotta have someone take the orders to sell the orders and ship them out, whatever. So that's the difference between the two. And I'll pull one up here in a minute. Sales projections, again, most difficult part to projections is sales revenue, exactly how much you're gonna make, and again, it's not an exact thing. But it must be realistic. Must be based on market seasonality. Breaking the method is one method to see the impact of the business decision. So here's the part I want you all to make sure you get. Right? And this is a simple way to show how much you put in your pocket. So, the napkin test. Talk about this candy bar. We're selling the candy bar for $1, right? It cost me 60 cents for this candy. Right? So the cash from the sales is 40 cents. So what we're looking for is a gross cash margin percentage. So when you think about your business, this is what you're trying to get down to, because this is what you have after you made your product and you sold it. You still got to put that 60 cents back to make another one. Or for this one to buy another candy bar, right? So that means you only got 40 cents out of this dollar to make the rest of your business run. That means pay your lights, gas, rent, and all of that. And pay you. So as a simple thing, if you want to take home $20,000, remember, this is why I asked you in the beginning, how much do you need to make? Because then you can begin to understand your pricing. So if you want to take home $20,000, you divide 20,000 by the gross cash margin percentage to discover how much you will need to sell in 1 year. So for these candy bars, if I want to make $20,000 and my margin of percentage is 40%, then I'm going to have to make $50,000 this year. That means I'm going to sell 50,000 $1 candy bars for me to put 20,000 in my pocket. Anybody have any questions on that?
Is this in the book?
Yes. If you want to take home $20,000 plus hire 2 employees at $15,000 each, which is $30,000, right? So now you need to make $50,000 a year. Times that 40%, that's $125,000. That means I gotta sell 125,000 candy bars. Is 125,000 candy bars about to sell in a year? Yeah. Do you mean how spread out there?
Like in different, like how are you going about selling them? Like are you selling them in one location or do you have for 10 different stores, gas stations?
There you go. You're pretty smart there.
I guess it could go either way.
It could go either way, right? Remember, that's 3 people.
Yeah.
Because you got 2 employees, or at least 2. Right? So that means each one of them are selling, this is the 62,000. So can one person sell 62,000 candy bars?
Anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
It's time, you know,
on TikTok.
So absolutely.
I did, if they each have to do it.
28 candy bars a week. There you go.
Or if you sell it to a wholesaler, you sell them.
There you go. So many ways, right?
I have a question.
That's cool. But the point is, now you know that the numbers are your biggest thing. So now you said, no, wait, like, I want to make way more than 20,000 a year. Now you know what to do. You know how to get the numbers and say, okay, if I need, based on my business, to make $20,000 a year, or 50,000, or 100,000, here's what I would need to do, right? If I had to do that by myself, it would probably be a lot. To make 100,000, because we would have to times everything up there by 5. I had to sell $250,000 worth of candy bars.
If I am the owner and I'm working on myself, to have 20,000, I have to sell 50,000 a year.
Yes,
Now I have 2 employees of 15,000 each. And both is 30,000. For those 2 employees.
it's 30,000, so they get 15,000 each.
Yes. Why? I just don't have to add those 30,000 to that 15. I'm a little bit confused.
So if we look up here, this is how much the company has to make. It's 125,000. So it's 20,000 that I'm going to take home. I'm gonna give each one of my employees 15,000. So that's 50,000 altogether. So what was your question?
My question is, we don't have another way to have that one of the 25,000
What do you mean by another way?
because I'm a little bit confused because now you're taking the amount I have to sell for one person and divide by the 40.
Yeah, 40%.
But where is the relationship between those 2 employees in this formula?
So let's go back, right? So if each candy bar I'm selling for $1, 60 cents is what the candy bar costs, right? So I have to give this 60 cents back every time to buy another candy bar, right? So that's not my money. There's nothing I can do with that. That's what the store got to get. The only thing I can deal with is 40, and you'll see on another one that the numbers change, because it's not as simple. But the cash from the sale was 40 cents or 40% in this particular one. That means this 40 cents is what I have to put in my pocket, right? So that's 40% of $1. So if the 40%, and it's going to change on the next one, that's the only thing I can take out of every dollar is the 40 cents, right? So I would take the 20,000 and divide it by the 40 cents, which is going to be 50,000. So I need to sell $50,000 by myself worth of candy bar in order to take 20,000 home.
That one is okay, yes.
Okay, so 20,000 for me. I got my 2 employees, which are 15,000 each, which makes 30,000. So the 30,000 plus the 20,000 is the 50,000. So it's no different from the top number. It's just I got 2 employees now. You got it now? Okay.
I was thinking you just took that 50,000. No, now it's.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, if you want to have a business site that rents for say $1,000 per month, 12,000, including utilities, 1,000 times 12 months is 12,000, plus the 20,000, plus your employees is the 62,000. So now we need to sell $155,000 worth of candy bars in 1 year in order for me to pay the rent, the employees, and the candy bar. So if there are any questions on it, this is where most people get kind of hung up. I want to make sure everyone has this. How you folks feel about it?
Like I get it, but like it's stressful.
So what's stressful?
I guess for me, when talking about money, because this was the part that tripped me up when I had to do my outfit competition. The money aspect, like you said, it's a conversation, but it always feels like there could be a wrong answer. Even with it being the first year and still trying to sort out projections and different things like that, this conversation just always seems like a beast that you're trying to tame and navigate and figure out its icks and what it likes and all that stuff, so. It's just always a stressful component, I feel like.
I would say this. You're right. But this is the essence of business.
Yeah.
This is the part that nobody want to do. This is the part that don't want to like, right? But if you get this, then you get business. So I can appreciate what you're saying, absolutely. Like, for a lot of us, like that percentage means nothing right now. Like, you know what I mean? Because we don't know what it really takes to produce our services, especially from a consultant point of view, right? And you're the only one, you don't have no employees. Like, it's almost like everything that comes in is just mine, which could be the case, right? Even if you're working out your house, you still should take out stuff for something for the rent. Now, I only say that because if you ever move out of your house, it's gonna be a little easier if you've already been paying rent, even if it's to yourself. But just understand when you really get this concept that now, and so here's where it comes to say, yes, I can do this business. Or maybe I don't need to do this business because what I would have to do to gain as much money as I need to satisfy my $1 million craving, right? How do I do that? So when I say I want all of you to make $1 million, right? I need all of you to make $1 million, but now we have to divide that profit margin to see how much you would have to make $1 million. Right? It's not $1 million revenue company. I want you all to be making $1 million in your pocket. Because that's the only way you can pay me $100,000. Right? If you only have if you have $1 million in revenue, then you may only be making 200,000, 300,000, depending on what the profit margin is after you pay everyone that you're putting in your pocket. So if you're making, if you're making $1 million, that means your business is probably worth at least $5 to $10 million. After you've paid everyone else. So the type of business I'm wishing for you are pretty big businesses. Right? Because you have to put $1 million in your pocket to put $100,000. So let's say we want to start a pie business, right? And I just, this is probably the last example, but I want to make sure you all really get this. Because this is the essence of everything that we've talked about up to this point. So let's start a pie bakery. And let's say we're selling the pies for $9.50. It costs me $3 to make the pie. So $6.50 divided by $9.50 is 68%. So our gross profit margin is 68%. So it will cost us $34,000 per year to operate our bakery. This includes the owner draw of $16,000. Everybody else? So the break even is 34,000. Divided by the 68% of profit margin, so I know I need to sell $50,000, have $50,000 worth of sales for me to make my $34,000 in profit to pay myself $16,000. So how many pies per year do I have to sell to make $50,000? So you take the 50,000 divided by the 950, you have to sell 5,265 pies per year, which is 102 pies per week, which is 21 pies per day. 21 pies per day doable?
I mean, it's what it's like a, working one bakery, if you sell around the house, if. It's doable.
Yeah. It's doable if you got a full-time job? How many dollars one day?
Somebody.
So sensitivity analysis, asking the question, okay, can we really make 21 pies? And again, it has a lot of determining factors. How big is the bakery or whatever? Well, one, can we sell 21 pies per day? Right? Can we make 21 pies per day? What if there's a pie glut in the marketplace and the selling price of pies drops to $6? What happens then? What if we don't sell 21 pies per day? What can we do? What if we decide that making 21 pies per day, 5 days a week, 52 weeks per year, just doesn't sound like a good time? Well, not you. Somebody that like it in their room doesn't tie. So it's just coming back to ask us with this point, right? I know, a couple of weeks ago, Jordan came in, I think like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We had a lot of time to talk. And, you know, one of the things I asked was, you know, after everything that, you know, we have learned so far, you know, there's a certain time that you come in and say, you know, not just Jordan, but we did have a little time to talk. Can I really do this, right? And at the end of the day, it's my vision, and can we really make this happen? Because hers are one of the kind of pieces, so she can't sell them like they sell in the, you know, retail store to make the amount of money that she wants to make. And does it sound like a good time when you really ramp up to be sitting there at the sewing machine every day, all day, for 1 or 2 pieces? So again, that's just a point where you have to come to for yourself, and she didn't answer, and I'm not, you know, asking her to answer that. But that was kind of my question, like, there's a lot to go and think about as you do this. And if it's for you, it's for you, right? I'm not saying one way or the other, but those are the questions you begin to ask yourself to say, okay, this is still a cool hobby, but to do a business, I would have to think a whole different way than I thought before. I may have to restructure some things, or that really doesn't sound good to me. 20 bacon, all those pies, I thought it was cool, because I worked in it with mama, like, I thought I had this thing down, but it's cool for me to work in there with her, but doing this on my own and having to make sure that I pay myself and doing this every day, I may not want to do that. But everybody says my pies are great, And they are, do I wanna go in there and be in there every day, all day, to make these pies?
That's what it is.
Right, making pies. And mold pies. And again, there's people who love making pies, if that's your thing, then I'm like, go. But again, sometimes we get caught up in somebody else's vision, like I did with my dad's store, that I started and then I had to keep going, because that wasn't his way of really doing it. Great cook, but he wasn't in that particular. Yes, ma'am.
I think if we have all those questions, the answer will affect the cash flow. Because you cannot, if you don't have to do all that, each day during the year, and you have to do for maybe 2 days, maybe the owner has to reduce the cash flow because the rent not gonna change and the utility not gonna change, you have to pay your.
Right. Yeah, so that's why you gotta ask yourself, if this is what I really wanna do, because you gotta go in there and do it, because your lights ain't gonna change, your utilities ain't gonna change, your employees, you still gotta pay. Well, this is, again, you gotta put it on this one, you're a one-man show, but yeah, absolutely. So it's just coming down to a question of, you know, what if this is, right? And if you so far in, like many were during COVID, like, okay, there is a glut in the market and everything goes down to $6, can I still survive? Or what else do I need to do to make it happen? Cause I bought this bakery, so I can't like, you know, I still got a mortgage, can't just walk away. Any more questions on that? Cause that's like this is, you know, the juice of everything. So I want you all to think about the amount of money that you wrote down in the beginning. And if this is, again, it's cool, if it's, you know, you still got a job and, you know, you can weather the storm. So understand, okay, let me go out here and try it. So even if it was the pie business, and I had some skeptical things in my head, before I went out and did anything, now, not like before, they have these places that are places where it's co-working space, that you can go there and make the 21 pies, that's the case. And see if this is what you really want to do before you head out and do a bigger thing. So if you're doing this part-time, hey, max it out as much as you can to actually see if this is what you want to do. Right? Before you go full-time, and if you can get it to a place where you have maxed out, you understand marketing, you know, how many you have to do now to make the numbers you need to make, doesn't mean it's going to work out exactly that way, but at least you know, then that's when you think about jumping. Because until then, it's speculation.
Speculation, which is scary. I think it's like catastrophize when we're thinking too far ahead to when that comes, you know, that volume comes or whatever, but like in this moment, actually like maxing out the time. They're not there, it's not there yet, so I think like when we play like that, it does kind of take some of the pressure off. And like pull back in how much we can control the situation versus like jumping too far ahead. And then like just canceling the whole business. Cause I haven't mixed up yet.
Yeah,
It helps, it's helpful.
yeah. But that's kind of the way that's the way I look at it. Is if you're gonna do this on a part-time and you're serious about it, then max out. Because if you can't max out on part-time, you probably won't max out on full-time. Now, when I say max out, that doesn't mean you getting up every day going to, I understand that you got a job. Your best intention is to come home and do something. But that salary needs to be hollow and bed, just whistle. Like, just come, just for 5 minutes, let us get acquainted just for 5 minutes. Yeah, just 5 minutes. You get a little comfortable, you catch that spot, 3 hours later. I ain't gonna say I did that last. So, cash management cycle, deals with, and this is business period, right? You buy the inventory. You sell the inventory. And when they talk about accounts receivable, does anyone know what accounts receivable is?
That when the money's going.
So, yes, incoming payments, right? So in bigger businesses, accounts receivable is, I will sell this to you, and I would like to get paid in 60 days. Or that means you have to have enough money in working capital to cover for those 60 days until the check comes. Right? That means I'm gonna sell it to you, if it's a $300,000 thing, so this is more big business, right? When you get into these types of accounts.
Like.
Or-
Businesses and stuff.
Or it's like this.
Like when you start a cleaning business and like, say you team up with like one of these bigger companies. But it's like you can use your own name if you want to, but you're like, I guess,
Subcontract.
yeah, basically.
So,
But you have to like work for 60 days before you get. So that's.
especially for the government.
Yeah, but that's like, what you're talking about.
Right. So a lot of government contracting, they pay you after the work is done. And it ain't the next day. So if you look at this company here, one of the challenges is, if we sign the paperwork today and you got the product, I still gotta wait 60 days. Right? So that puts me in a hole for 60 days. So I have to have enough money on hand to be able to cover that. That's where you get working capital. Working capital says, I can pay this off in 61 days, but I gotta have the money now to get everything ready and get it to the market. So then you collect your money, but see, here's the thing, right? We do the same thing as us as business, right? Because we go to our supplier and say, hey, look, can you hold me for 90 days? Right? And we don't pay on day 60, we pay on day 90. Right? So we're asking our customers, make sure you give me my money for 60 days. So that I can make sure I can pay them in 90. That's just the cycle. This is the way it's done, right? Now, everybody's not gonna have to go through this and have accounts receivable, so you might do this on a cash basis. That means the day you do something is the day you get the money. The reason why this is important is because in accounting, they call it the GAAP, General Accounting Principles, right? When you make your money, when you have the sale, when the contract is signed, they report that as a sale. Right? So I sell $300,000 worth of this. On the papers, in the account receivable, I have $300,000. But I ain't got a dollar in the bank. Because I won't get that until 60 days. So that's why you gotta make sure your accounting, your projections, your all these different things, your profit and loss, or show you, especially your cash flow statement, that yes, we made $300,000 in sales, but we don't have that much in the bank. And everyone still needs to get paid for these next 2 months. So how do I make sure these people get paid for the next 2 months until this check hits? That's what the numbers show you. That's why you gotta be up on your numbers, or have someone who is up on your numbers. Not everyone, not all of us have to deal with that, but a lot of us do, right? So if you're in your AI business, right, and you're dealing with corporate, they say, yeah, we're good, we'll sign the thing, but it might not be 60 days till you get the check. You done already done work, you done done everything, but you still gotta eat. So how do I eat? Now, on the other end, there's way more than enough money to make sure I take care of this loan and put a lot of money in my pocket, but it's getting there. And that was one of the big things about Blacks in construction, is because we weren't able to get loans. So we couldn't withstand that 60-day period where a lot of other companies could, because they could get money and cash flow and say, we can hold on for 60 days till we got this thing.
The first part, just starting out, being, this is like the main source, how do you work it out?
With that bridge you got, right? So if it's most of our service businesses, consulting, whatever, you don't really need money. Those are the easiest kind of ones to get into. All you gotta do is be bold enough to go out and find someone who's gonna touch you a check. Right? Now, if you're saying I am a consultant and I just started and I have no money, then we went to that ramen noodles and hot dogs, right? What am I gonna do to sacrifice to get over those 60 days until that check comes? Right? What was that movie, Pursuit of Happiness? Did y'all see that? And how he had to continue to manipulate money? Like he had to ride a long time on ramen noodles and hot dogs until he got to a point after the apprenticeship that he could actually really get paid. It's the same thing, right? So we have to look at our business and say, okay, do I have enough money saved? Or do I need to go get working capital? Do I need to go to a place that says, all right, here's where I'm at. I can really make this happen. I have the contracts and all this other stuff. But I need this money to be able to bridge these 60 days, 120 days until this happens. Again, think about how much money it costs to build an aircraft carrier. Right? That can take up to 3 to 5 years to build an aircraft carrier. And they don't, and so they have them, and when they're done, so how do they float all that money, billions, until they were able to get paid? You think about Boeing, when they had the thing with their airplanes, and they got all these airplanes that were ready to be sold. Now they're just sitting out there. They were already paid for it through a loan, so how do you, so you still gotta have enough money or enough credit. When I mean credit, that they still believe that your business is solid, that somebody gotta swallow up that money. And you can't let your airplane people go, they still gotta make airplanes. So we're still in the game, right? Like, okay, if you need to think about how much money you need from now until whenever. Fortunately, our businesses are not in a capacity where we have to really worry about hundreds of thousands of dollars. Right, to get started. That's why a lot of people go into the service industry, because it's so much easier to get started. If you were to build a car that you needed to build, could you go out and get enough money to start from scratch just to build the place that's gonna make the cars and you ain't got no mortgage in it? Like Tesla did. But again, we have a lot of backing, we have a lot of governance, which most of our car companies do. Most of these car companies and a lot of other companies get government subsidies where they wouldn't be able to exist. So again, sensitivity analysis, which we went over a little bit, predicting outcomes from various scenarios, what ifs, and then looking at your projections with what if in mind. What are seasonal storms? What if shipping delays? What if parts are on back order for 6 months? Right? What if the seasonal storm hit and now there's no more apples that we can do for the apple pies, which is the main part of my pie bakery business? Right? What if all these landscapers who put their businesses from the summer to the winter and they start doing show snuffling, what happens to all of them people? Not just the ski people, right? But just the landscaping people, just the average everyday business person who part of their winter money is through shoveling snow. So if there's no snow, what do? Because there's nothing to landscape. So that means they gotta lay all these people off. Or find something for them to do. Because a lot of times when we lay people off, it's hard to get them back. Because for most of us, one, we don't like sitting around. And two, unemployment don't pay enough. Right? So how do we get this back? And then from our point of view, as a business owner, we don't want to see that happen either. Like, we love our employees. We want to make sure we work. We want to give them that opportunity. But when something like that, what happens? Just think of how many businesses, how many families got ruined because of COVID. That's something we see. Right? It wasn't like it affected us as in there was a big Apple thing somewhere else on another continent that we didn't know about, which really hurt them. Yeah, it hurt us a little bit because we had to pay more, but we didn't see it. But this, it affected all of us. We've seen it. And still some people managed to make it through it. So projecting other sources, right? So when you talk about other sources of cash, and these are, again, advertising rebates. So you might have catch an advertising sale, bad debt recovery. I was looking at this one business I was gonna buy. And I was sitting down talking with the owner, and I was looking at all this account receivable. And I'm like, that's a lot of money in the account receivable. So he was making so much money that people that didn't pay him, he just never dealt with it. He had like $300,000 to sit there. And that's common. Right? So this is saying, hey, there might be some bad debts out there, but if we can get 30% of that 300,000, we're still doing better if we don't catch none of it. So this is when, just like, the bad debt people, they'll call you and say, hey, Rose, I know you owe me 3,000, but if you can give me 700, we good, because they ain't get it no other way. Deposits refunded, other uses of cash, interest paid, sales tax paid. Yeah. Money to start your business. How much money do you need? I think we talked about that. Really thinking through how much money do you need? How much money does it cost to start your business? And know the numbers, again, from all new stuff. You're gonna go to the bank, go for it all. Now, if they come back and say they're not gonna fund you this month, then that's when we start talking about, okay, well, maybe we can get this used or that used or whatever. You might want to get it used anyway. I would still go with it at the full price. If I can, then that means I got more working capital over here. Get the full price for it, then, if I gotta go and get a used one that's real good, that'll make, that'll really work for me, then that's cool too. Again, the more working capital that you have on hand, the more things you can do. So what type of money? What terms will the money, what terms will work? Or do you have your own money? And I will tell everyone, if I got $1 million and the business costs $1 million, I would not pay $1 million. I will always try to use other people's money. right? And here's why. If you have $1 million and you pay $1 million, you are then totally leveraged to your business. Meaning you don't make $1 until you make back your $1 million. You don't make $1 until you make back your $1 million. That doesn't mean you're not getting paid or whatever, but the actual essence of it is, if you don't make back your $1 million, or until you make back your $1 million, because that's what you have right now, then you really haven't made any money until you get back your $1 million and anything over that. That's why people use other people's money. So if I had $1 million, it was $1 million business. I only had to go to, if I had to go to the bank and get 90%, and I only had to put down 10%, I would only put down $100,000, because that means I'm only out $100,000. And that other $900,000, that's my working capital. Now I got money to do what I need to do to buy more stuff or acquire another business or whatever. You still got a lot of money to make decisions that you don't have to go to the bank to make. And yes, the bank is going to make a little bit of money. If your business is successful enough, it doesn't make a difference. The business paid that back. So as soon as you make your $100,000 back, everything over that is profit. Any questions on that? Because people will be thinking about that and questioning with that. Do you understand the concept of why you use other people's money as much as possible? And if you're paying interest on the money, which you are if you use other people's money, you are still paying interest on that $1 million. Because now that $1 million that you put and injected the whole thing in is probably not keeping up with inflation. So the question is, how long is it going to take you to make back your $1 million from that to become even, to become whole? So that's how that works. Just my thought, my theory. Y'all don't want to do it anyway. And where will you search for money, right? There's all these different places. Now, again, I say everyone go to your local CDC, your local business, your city, your township, not just yours for where you live, but where the business is located. Because they will have, that's what they're there for, to help you get resources, help you understand, to know when there are grants out there. And now, one thing I'll say about grants, I say ask about the grant, but then don't make that the essence of your business, right? Now, the way I do it is, if the money I need, I know that I'm going to a bank and get. Okay? Now, if I walk into the local Community Development Corporation and say, you know, my name is Board Manager, I'm just coming to the area, here's my business. First thing I'm asking is not what money you have for grants, if you have for businesses. So that is a question, right? So, you know, I'm just here, you know, just to see what you all have to offer. And if they say, okay, we got this grant, so this grant might just be for women. So we know we're not even into that for me, right? But they may say, well, we got a grant for technical assistance where we can help you set up your books, right? They may not come out of their pocket and give me $5,000, but if they will pay someone to do my book, that's $5,000 that I don't have to take out my pocket to pay for. Great. Right? So grant doesn't always come in money, but it comes in services. Or people, places like this, like a community development corporation, anything that has small grants. I might ask them to sit in the bank, does your foundation have any grants for businesses? They usually don't, but I ask. But places like this is where they kind of come, right? And then you know, or you say, hey, look, I got pretty much everything else, but I'm looking for some money for this other piece of equipment. Then they can say, okay, let me think about that. But when you come in this way, where you have grants, that means nothing because every grant is specific to something. Right? So I'm asking, you know, what type of grants do you have to help your business? And I'm sitting down listening to see what can I plug into me? Because I realize that every grant that they have may not be for me. But that's a different question that I usually get where, you know, what grants do you have for business? The first thing I say is, well, what kind of business do you have? I need to understand something about your business so I can point you to the right grant. If there's one out there for you, right? So that's part of where we search for money. And then again, coming to a place like this, we're gonna have all the other alternatives to banks, CDFIs, which, Aaron, he was there for Northwest. But there's CDFIs, Community Development Financial Institution, which they don't do as much background as banks. Their whole thing is they come in, they get money from other banks to be able to get in the street, and it's usually for low to moderate income areas. Whenever you hear low to moderate income, it's talking about black people. I just want to help y'all understand the meaning. So, summary, most important aspect of cash flow is planning, projection, management. How will you create your cash flow projections? So, there any questions on this? Just before I forget, y'all make sure you do not leave without signing the roll. Any questions on money? Was that helpful to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Say that again?
No, I said it just answered, because funnily enough, I have a meeting with the neighborhood community development fund tomorrow, Denise. To talk
Denise.
about other funding opportunities, and then later this week, I'm hoping out the bank.
So let's talk to you.
Yeah,
So let's talk to your,
yeah, because it's just like, I know, I was telling Denise last week, had I known the information that I know now, I wouldn't be trying to scramble to get sponsors now. Like, I would have been having conversations with people 6 months ago. But I think my biggest issue was being able to articulate the business. Like, I was just actually, while you were talking, I was like looking through our budget, because it got me thinking about the numbers and everything. Just how do I navigate conversations with the bank and different things like that? Because I have our business plan, like I have our operations and all that stuff, but like, how does that conversation go when your business doesn't have a credit history? You don't really have much to go off of except hold a prayer, like, hey, people like this vision, people support it.
so I think the first question that may be asked is, and kind of what we went through earlier, right?
Yeah.
How are you making money?
Yeah,
So I think, so how much money are you looking for first?
so just redid our budget. Everyone is like taking off, like, oh, we don't need to salary this year, so it dropped us from over 100,000 down to like, if we get 40 grand, that would make the year perfect. We'd be able to pull off. So as of right now, 40 grand is like the bare minimum. But to give us cushion, a surplus of like 70 grand would be good for the year.
Okay, so if you're looking, let's just start with the 40, right?
Mhm.
How do you pay that back?
And that's the thing, so it's like, we won't know. Cause like, we can project like, oh, we'll sell out every show, like, all of our vendors will pay. like, Yeah.
So let's start out with that, right?
Okay.
And I want you to start out with confidence.
Mhm.
If, based on the way you have it,
Mhm.
your vendors are gonna pay and it's sold out, do those bring in enough money after all your artists and everyone are paid to pay back a loan? Because that's the only thing at the end of the day that's cared about, one. Then two is gonna be, okay, if you're doing it like this, you may need to be a nonprofit.
Right.
Because then you could ask for the sponsorship from corporate and they're more likely to give it to you because they can give it to a nonprofit because like Heinz, they love the arts,
Yeah.
right? Anything that's dealing with the arts. Because at the end of the day, you know, with all love that I can say, it's doing you and your people a disservice to put this type of work, time, energy, and effort.
Right.
If this is gonna be a business,
Right.
right? If
Yeah.
it's a hobby. But again, what I love about this is that this is your proving ground, like this is part of it. And enjoy the ride, like don't get all that other stuff, that's all garbage. Like enjoy this ride that you're going on, because after this ride, you're gonna be so much more powerful because you've done it.
Yeah.
You've been through it. Now your next brilliant whatever is gonna be like, okay, no, here's what we need to do. We need to sit down, look at some numbers, and all I'm gonna hear in my ear is Mr. Gordon saying, what do you understand, right?
Yeah.
How am I getting paid? Right? And your husband's gonna subsidize you for a little bit longer, but at some point,
Yeah. No,
Right.
I told him I'm giving it, because this year is like the concept, just to make sure this works.
Mhm.
Next year is when we really are gonna be doing the full business model. Because we're using this year to like tap into the different communities, into the different cities. But next year, when we do like our spring launch event, we'll announce like the full tour in itself. The nonprofit side, which I'm working with, Lauren McCurdy from Sojourner House. Work with her to like build that out, and then with the tour next year, is where we'll really be able to articulate like how people will be, the ROI of the business basically. So this year, we're just doing a test model to see like, hey, this is a great idea, people enjoy it, what does that model look like?
so I think one, so let me ask you this, what industry is your business in?
So we fall under like art festivals, so like the Black Girl Art Summer thing, like those traveling art festivals. So, and they traditionally fall within like the 10 to 15% profit margin. Because we're on a smaller scale, we're gonna be just below 5% if everything goes as planned. And so where Audacity is essentially a culmination of all these various art festivals pulled into one. So we'll have visual, we'll have film, we'll have singing, dance, and all the things, but the thing that sets us apart is the experience in one night that people get to deal with. So like, when you go to a festival, you typically see like 500+ vendors and like these really big names on the stage and everything. So we're taking that, but we're taking that model and making it a local effort. So really engaging with the community on a lower scale, not a lower scale, but more intimate setting. And giving artists an opportunity to cross-pollinate into those cities and networks that they may not have access to, like somebody in Charlotte, they may want to come to Pittsburgh, but they don't know anybody in Pittsburgh, and vice versa. So that's the ultimate goal of us being a platform for artists from various art mediums.
So if you don't get the money, then what?
So without the money, I mean, like, at our best, I don't know, I really don't know. Cause like, essentially, the Debbie Downer is just like the toilet we would have. That's essentially what, because one of our biggest milestones is we wanna pay our people. So like, we wanna pay the art that comes, because the one complaint that comes from the artist community is like, oh, people just want me to come and do it for exposure, no one wants to pay, and that's been the big buy-in with artists wanting to work with us, is because we made our commitment to that, like making sure they get paid. And so like, without the money to pay the artists, it would kind of be hypocritical critical of us to go back and be like, hey, so JK, you know, we should still do it though for the exposure, because it defeats the purpose of why we're trying to set ourselves apart from these art festivals and different things like that.
So because it is the CDFI, and they're a little more lenient,
Mhm.
right? One way may be to, when talking to her, and I don't know if this will work, but before I ask that, who's signing for this 40,000?
Me.
So, because I want to see you stay married.
I would say my husband is more confident than I am, because I was like, no, I can just go back and work. He said, no, give it 2 years. I was like, say less. Say less.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah, until that $40,000 bill come in.
exactly.
So,
Right now, he's on board.
right. So one way to look at this, and I would ask her if this is possible.
Mhm.
Since this is a pilot project, we need 40,000, but can we do this project by project?
Mhm.
They may or may not do that, but at least you're not on the hook for 40,000,
Right,
maybe only 10,000,
right.
right? Because if it works, then you say, okay, we understand, if you can come back and say, all right, here's what worked, here's what didn't,
Right.
and can we keep going, right? Because how much do you plan on making on your next one?
So I haven't even done those, like, projections yet.
So, and the reason why I say that is, you know, you need to have a real strong number of what you want.
Mhm.
Because 40,000 still may not be enough, like, get your
Yeah.
real number, right? I don't care if it's 100,000,
Yeah,
right? Get your real number. And then, you know, base that down on each event. Okay, this one is gonna be a little less, or this one's gonna be a little more, but our next event is this.
Mhm.
And let's go for it, right? But don't get, and if you do have to get to 40, you gotta have some financial discipline.
yeah,
Like, this is what our budget for this one is, all the rest of that is staying in there.
yeah,
Because if this don't work, we need to get that back and just worry about this.
yeah,
But if they could do event by event,
Right.
then that takes a lot less pressure off of you.
yeah. So that's the goal. So like, over the next couple of weeks, I'll be traveling into the different cities for like 72 hours and using team members in that city to introduce me to some potential stakeholders that could help us fund this process. So like, I just text, the community partner for North Carolina. And so seeing what these, because I just did it for Richmond, so like the people that I met while I was there are potential stakeholders, so like I'm following up with them, just like thanking them for that time, but also sending them like a sponsorship packet and like looking at what that conversation would look like for them to contribute to us monetarily, instead of just saying like, hey, share our flyer. And so those conversations are taking place over the next couple of weeks. And once again, had I known that this was a process, I would have been doing this.
That's
last
cool,
year.
we don't know,
So, yeah.
don't worry about it. You're right,
just
you're supposed to
figuring-
do.
Yeah, like just figuring out what those conversations look like, and like you said, going down to get like the nitty gritty of the number and what that number looks like for each city. So we have a budget that is broken down per city. And so looking at all those things, and like we're also trying to like film the documentary of what this process looks like in the first year, and use that film for next year to get more investors to show like, hey, we pulled this off, this was the return, and different things like that.
So when you say you're going down to get sponsors, so these are foundations and different things that, or people who are going to put into the show,
Yeah,
not expecting anything back.
Right.
Okay. So if you find enough sponsors to cover it, then you probably don't even need the loan.
yeah, so the goal is to not have to do the loan. But I'm keeping that in the reality of the forefront of like, that may be a possibility. Like, I was just sitting there thinking, like, if I can get 8 people to give me $5 grand, I can make it work within that $40,000 cap. But also being realistic and realizing that, and I was talking to my husband about this, like, we may have to go to the bank and like get a loan and what that conversation looks like for us. And so the numbers conversation today really helped, like, put everything into perspective, because I actually sat down, like, looked at our budget and like looked at the numbers and moved things around and all that stuff, so yeah.
So I would say, one, what would better be, would be more than a loan, would be a line of credit, which
Okay.
CDFIs don't do.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because you can take out of that and put it back. So, meaning, and most people use lines of credit for working capital, meaning, get down to Richmond, the thing was, all in, let's say 20,000.
Mhm.
You got 15 up front from the places, but you may have to wait on 5,000. So you would use that line of credit to cover that 5,000 until you got it back on the other side,
Okay.
right? So then that means there's nothing out of your pocket, a little bit of interest for them, thank them for it.
Mhm.
But you're not on the hook for a note for a long period of time.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So a line of credit at a bank or wherever would be a lot better than a loan, where now you have to pay this thing regardless,
Right.
every month.
Okay.
So if you and your husband sat down and thought about it and said, okay, look, let's get this line of credit, and let's work it this way,
Mhm.
other than going to get a $40,000 loan. And again, whether you use it or not, you're still paying for it.
Okay. All right, I'll have updates by next week. Yes. So I should be promoted, man, that's also an issue that I have.
Because what I'm hearing is you're more of a promoter
Yeah,
than anything.
yes,
And so how do promoters get paid?
yeah.
That's what you need to be looking at, right? How do promoters get paid for you and your people? And then you decide, okay, from what we're looking at, can we make enough money from this to make sure everybody gets paid?
Yeah, I think that's where I'm kind of getting frozen on. So it's like, I've sat there with the team, we talked about the media and the marketing budget and like production budget and what all these things look like. And I always tell my team, like, give me a perfect world. And then from that, I'll deduct the reality of what we can do in our first year. And so like our perfect world, I think it was like $120,000 for all 4 cities, great production, AV support, all the different things. We sell the merch, all the stuff. But then I have to stop and look at the budget, and I think that's where I'm getting stuck at, with just being able to figure out how we're gonna make that money, and then what that looks like. Just, yeah, just the conversation of money, and it gets to the real nitty-gritty.
Go ahead.
Have you heard of, this was a company 10 years ago, I don't know if they still do a Raw Artist Showcase?
Vaguely.
So, their business model was, they had the same, somewhat similar business model. They required, if you wanted to participate in their showcase, you had to sell 20 tickets, which was great marketing as well for their business, because now they have to sell to their, since they're supposed to be, artists, they were musicians, painters, they had to sell, use their social media, sell those 20 tickets as a requirement to even participate. And the things, so this will help you as far as maybe, ticket sales, you'll use that money to pay them.
Right, yeah.
And it was just, that was like I said, I don't know, it was 2 years ago, I don't know if they still exist,
Yeah.
but they were like all over the whole United States.
Right.
They
I
did
think
big
the issue
showcases.
is because we wanted to incorporate that in the contract, because that's another thing we're doing is we're making sure we protect ourselves legally with contracts. And so we mentioned it casually to a couple artists, and they're like, well, what's the incentive for me? And I wanted to be like, you get paid from the tickets that you sell, because we're encouraging you to sell tickets to make sure you get paid. That's your incentive. Because like, if we don't sell tickets, we can pay you. And so I think I do want to go back to that conversation. Cause yeah, like one person.
I think it's fun as like, they wanted artists that had fan base, like,
Okay.
if you can't sell 20 tickets, and you probably don't have a fan base, I mean, that you're so freshly new, that you
Right.
probably should be getting paid anyway. So,
Okay.
it was somehow, I remember, because I'm on an innovator in California,
Yeah.
the business model was really unique.
I'm
And they worded it, so if they made those, like, you had to have 20 tickets sales, it was $2 per ticket.
Mhm.
And they worded it as if it was like, we want artists that are dedicated, we want
Okay.
dedicated to the craft.
Gotcha.
So that's what it was, they wanted artists that were dedicated to their craft.
Okay.
So if you put those 20 tickets, that means that you wasn't promoting yourself anyway.
Exactly.
You don't deserve to
Okay.
get paid much type of energy.
Gotcha, okay, yeah, so I like that for me, and I just made a note of it to, my husband is my notepad, he's saying all the crazy stuff from tonight. But yeah, I'll definitely look into that, but yeah, also enough of my tickets, they're on sale.
So send it out to the group, but I was gonna say, again, promoter, you just gotta figure out what is the number, and if it's $120,000, then it's
Yeah.
$120,000, so start with the number for your show,
Mhm.
where everyone's getting paid, and then you figure that out.
Okay,
Don't figure out the bottom number where, you know,
Yeah.
cause I know artists, they just like the art,
yeah,
but I could, I'm just being honest, I could care less about art without a check.
come on.
So it's all about, okay, if it's, $32,000 a show,
Mhm.
then okay, how do we figure that out? How much do we need from the artists? How much do we need from the foundations? How much, if we're doing this and you have 10 artists and each of them is supposed to be $20, and depending on what your ticket is, how much is that bringing in?
Yeah,
Right? Okay, well, that's this much of the budget. Now we gotta go out here and fight with the other piece to get that point.
right,
And then that's a better way to think about it than, oh, we're gonna do it regardless, even if nobody gets paid. And I
yeah,
understand that, but I don't agree with it.
yeah,
Because you all are doing a lot of work, like if you're traveling
yeah.
back and forth,
And the entire team except me, everyone is still doing full-time jobs.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but no, you doing a full-time job,
Well, yeah, I'm doing this full-time. so
Yes,
they're doing this
and you're getting
part-time.
paid.
Yeah,
Cause your husband is paying all, I mean, think about it. I mean, honestly, your husband is subsidizing
yeah,
your growth, which is beautiful. So I'm not taking anything away from that, but understand that's still coming from somewhere. Cause you still gotta get gas in, like, it ain't free,
yeah,
right? So I'm always looking at, okay, that's great, but now how do we monetize it? So, and I didn't know you had the foundations and stuff in these different places, so I would hit them with, so it may look like if they can fund the artists, then let what the artists bring in from the $20 a ticket fund you
okay.
and your people.
Got it.
Cause a lot of times the foundations will fund projects.
Gotcha, okay.
They don't, but I will put it to them, because they may
Yeah.
fund everything,
No, yeah, absolutely. So
right?
what you're saying is, I have the sponsorship packet, but see if foundations that are like art-based focused are willing to contribute paying the artists for each city.
Correct,
Okay,
correct.
gotcha,
And I wouldn't even say the artists, here's what it costs
right,
to put this production on,
gotcha.
right? So that means you got the production, you got the artists,
Mhm.
everything that they bring in financially is what you gotta make. So that, because the foundation be like, okay, we did our part.
Mhm.
If you get paid or not, doesn't make them any difference. Right?
Yeah,
Now, that means you gotta do the business part to say, we got 10 artists, they're doing, 20 tickets each.
Mhm.
This is how much it brings in based on our sale of the ticket.
right,
Is that enough to cover all that we need to cover? Because that's just the artist. You talk about you and your team,
yeah,
right? And so now you gotta look at, okay, are we charging enough
yeah,
for this to happen? If we charge more, then to take it out of the realm of what people can do. So then either we're gonna raise the ticket, or we're gonna keep it as it is, but we may not get paid as much.
yeah,
But we're gonna get paid, like,
right.
everybody should walk away there at least with a hamburger and a hot dog, at
Yeah,
least.
please,
This is enough for, get the ramen noodles. Yes, ma'am.
going to those cities. And.
How is she account for it?
Yeah, like, is that just part of the production or is that something separate?
No, that's why she gets paid.
Yeah.
Like her pay is part of all of that, right? Now, can she get paid what she's worth? That's up to her and how the money comes out, right?
Yeah.
But at least if she gets a pay, and I'm talking about her, I'm not talking about her team. But at least she gets paid enough to get all the expenses to put back into the house, then at least that's a win.
Yeah.
Cause right now, she ain't put nothing back into the house. You understand? You know what I'm saying? So at least if we're bringing the household back, we've made some money. Now, we haven't made a profit, but at least we haven't lost anything.
Will she itemize that when she does her, like, when she's meeting with the bank next week or something like, when she does her production, like you said, her whole production.
I don't see how, she doesn't
itemize
have to itemize that. She just gotta be accountable to what all she's put in so she can get paid back.
Right, okay, yeah, cause I think like the one budget just has, okay, how much does it cost for art and venue and food and all the different things for each city? It doesn't have anything of like my office or like Canva, my business address in Emerald City, like that, this particular budget for the tour doesn't encompass all those small expenditures that I have. So, yeah,
They should.
okay,
like
Everything.
that example we had up there that kind of long.
Mhm.
okay,
Right, that's all part of your projections, right? Like, everything that you put into your business is coming out of your pocket. Should be put in so that the business can pay you.
okay.
You're just like any other employee.
So then it already went up past the 40,000.
Yeah, I was
She was
just
thinking.
Cause I haven't included basically.
Well, we talked about that, right? The 40,000 was because everyone said they weren't gonna take a pay out of her
Yeah,
team.
practicing, so,
This was just for the artists and the production,
yeah,
right?
this budget doesn't include all that stuff.
Right, it was 120 something thousand, including all of it.
Yeah, so
Right.
I have done a lot of things.
So the first thing you do, I don't care who you show it to, show them the real price that it takes to do this.
Okay.
Like, don't sugarcoat it, nothing. No, this is how much it costs. How much can you help me with?
Okay, gotcha. That'll be-
Because they'll never know. They'll
Yeah.
never know if they can help because they don't see it,
The real number.
right? So you need to know when you walk in, you walk in with the real number and then asking them, okay, here's what it is. What can you help me with?
Okay. Okay. I'm sure-
But you're gonna have to do that per city.
Yeah, so the budget, I have one big one that has all the cities, and I'm gonna add like all the different expenses. And then I'll be able to pull from that budget, so when I do reach out to like Richmond and Charlotte, I'll be able to pull like, hey, this is how much it's gonna cost for us to come to your city. How can your city help, like, put this whole thing together to make it a successful show for your city?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just later.
Any other questions?
Yes, ma'am.
So, Ms. George, did you think about how much you have to really charge for your one-of-a-kind pieces?
I mean, honestly, because I want to upgrade from where I'm at now, not exponentially like towards the standard items like the tote bags and the t-shirts. Like I started off with just, basic t-shirt, but I would like to give a better quality option. So I was thinking about going up $5 for the shirts,
How much did you charge for the totes?
15. But those are just screen print, really easy. I'm working on introducing some that have like, 3D flowers on them, so.
Why $15?
That's entry level.
How much did it cost you to make it?
I think I might have paid $3 a tote, $3 or $4 a tote, then I print it myself. Each one's made to order, takes me about maybe 10 minutes to print one, if that, depending on how I do it. So I just wanted to give people like an entry level to my brand with the t-shirts and the tote bags, because my sewing products a purse, the cheapest one that I have, I think is $80, and it's like on the smaller side, which is low considering, but the most expensive one on my site is 120. So I'm thinking about raising those prices more too. But to consider the time and the effort that goes into each one, especially because I've made each one since I started better. So I haven't figured out just yet. Like right now, I'm focusing on clothes for the fashion.
So she's one of our fashion.
Yeah. But I do wanna upgrade my prices on the basic t-shirts, $5, so now making them 30. And then for the tote bags where I put the sewn details, I was thinking charging 25 for those, because I would have to source the floral appliques that go on each one, and those can get.
Is that what the market is based on? Like, do you see people with comparable things that you do? Is that the going price? Or is that just the price you set? Because you were scared to put it at $250?
That's the price I said, because to be quite honest with you, for the ones that I actually sew, don't screen print, that bag should be worth more money, like if they're sold as more money.
What do you mean? Okay, sold is more money.
Yeah,
Okay, so why don't you? No, seriously, like if the market says the things that you're doing is $250, then test the market. What's the worst can happen? Ain't nobody gonna buy it.
yeah. Because I have thought about that, because it takes.
And that's usually how it works, right? You put it up to 500, you discount it to 250 and everybody buy it. You got something?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, hold you.
I was like,
All right, y'all make sure y'all sign in? All right. But that's the way you gotta begin to think about it, right? You gotta look at the market, test the market, right? Because you may see that you get up to 250 and that's a sweet spot, like you start selling more because people put more value in. You know what I mean? And if not, then you just bring it down. That means you're on Etsy, like there's nothing, you ain't got no brick and mortar. You ain't got no kids. What you got? Put that thing up there at 500. What's the worst that can happen? Somebody buy it? Then you gotta make another one? Right. You know? All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, it's like one, just want to know what's up.
But listen, Simply Modern, from today, I have this and the sandwich. I choose to open my sandwich every day. Every day.
I think it's amazing.